There was a heel in the mailbox. Just one. A black stiletto, speckled with dirt and grass, shoved inside like junk mail. No note. No explanation. Just leather, silence, and the slow burn in my gut that told me the truth always arrives before it introduces itself. I stood there for a good 20 seconds, holding the shoe like it might whisper something. There was a faint red scuff on the back. Lipstick, maybe. Blood? My hand trembled as I shut the mailbox and walked back up the steps barefoot. I hadn't even realized I'd run outside without shoes. The porch light was still off. I left it off on purpose. I wanted her to walk into the dark. I wanted her to think the house was sleeping, like I was still the kind of husband who trusted her enough to drift off while she was getting drinks with coworkers. At 2:19 a.m., there were tire marks in the gravel. A single black line swerved near the edge of the yard like someone took the turn too fast. The car engine had cut 5 minutes earlier. I'd listened from the laundry room, crouched between detergent bottles and the soft hum of the dryer. I could hear her laugh before the door slammed. Not the laugh she gave me. A newer version. Lighter. Sharper. Like it belonged to someone freer. The key scratched at the lock like she couldn't remember which way it turned. I stood behind the kitchen wall, heart punching against my ribs like it was trying to escape before the truth did. And then the door creaked open. Her silhouette staggered in. Barefoot. Her hand reached for the light switch. I beat her to it. The kitchen lit up with the sharp hum of fluorescent white. She flinched so hard she hit the side table. A framed photo of us fell face down. Her breath caught. Her eyes widened. She looked like a kid caught sneaking in past curfew, except she wasn't 17 anymore. She was my wife. Hair wild. Dress twisted. A necklace she didn't leave with dangling from her wrist. And she only said one word. You. I didn't answer. I just held up the shoe. The one from the mailbox. Her face drained like a sink unplugged. Color gone. Expression frozen between guilt and strategy, like she was calculating how much of the truth I already knew. You're not supposed to be, she started, then stopped. The shoe dropped to the floor with a quiet thud. Did you have fun? I asked. She blinked. Lowell, this isn't real. I cut her off. Because that's what it looks like. It looks very, very real. She looked down at herself like she was just realizing what she came home in. The hem of her dress had a rip on the side. Her thigh had dirt on it. There was a ring around her ankle from where something tight had been. She didn't deny it. Didn't cry. Didn't say she was sorry. She just walked past me like I was air. Stepped over the photo. Grabbed a water bottle from the fridge. I stared at her in silence. Then she finally spoke, voice cold, hollow, like she was reading from a script she didn't believe in anymore. I didn't plan it. And I laughed. Because that's what she thought would fix it. Planning. Like betrayal needs an itinerary. She didn't sleep in our bed that night. She didn't sleep on the couch either. She disappeared into the guest room, closed the door quietly, and that was it. Like we were housemates who'd argued over laundry instead of whatever the hell that was. I sat on the edge of the mattress in our bedroom, still fully dressed, with that one heel lying next to me like a symbol. Like a trophy someone accidentally left behind after winning something they shouldn't have been playing for. The worst part? I didn't even yell. I didn't ask her whose necklace that was or what kind of man she was laughing with before she stumbled through our door. I didn't rage or threaten or even cry. I just sat there, locked in that quiet, pathetic paralysis where your mind wants answers, but your heart is too scared to hear them. Around 4 a.m., I finally walked over to the guest room door. I pressed my ear against it. Silence. No crying. No movement. Just this heavy, ugly stillness like she was already gone but hadn't packed yet. I thought about knocking. About whispering her name. But what would I say? Hey, I know you cheated. Can we talk before the sun comes up? It felt absurd. Everything felt absurd. The next morning, I stayed in bed longer than I should have. I was supposed to meet with the maintenance guys at school to check on a broken HVAC unit. I emailed in sick instead. I couldn't bring myself to be Mr. Galvin with a smile, checking thermostats and pretending my life wasn't caving in. Around 10:17 a.m., I heard her moving. Not tiptoeing this time. Open footsteps. Confident ones. I sat up and peeked through the crack in the door. She was in the kitchen, making coffee, hair tied up, hoodie on, like it was just any other Sunday. When I finally walked in, she didn't even flinch. She glanced over her shoulder, handed me a mug, and said, "Didn't sleep well." You. I stared at her. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Not even the decency to act ashamed. She just sipped her coffee, scrolling on her phone like she hadn't broken something permanent between us just hours earlier. Blythe, I finally said, my voice barely audible. Who were you with last night? She didn't look up. I told you. Nessa. You weren't with Nessa. She took another sip. What are you talking about? Her husband posted photos. They were at a cabin upstate. With their kids. Now she looked up. Slowly. Her lips parted slightly, her tongue touching her bottom lip like she needed to moisten it before lying again. Maybe she changed plans, she said. No, I said. You changed plans. Her face hardened. The charm, the softness, it vanished. She set her mug down and crossed her arms like she was gearing up for a fight she didn't even respect. You don't trust me anymore, is that it? She asked. My breath caught. I blinked. Trust? Blythe, I found your shoe in the mailbox. That threw her off. For the first time, her composure cracked just a little. What? Why was one of your shoes outside? Blythe, why did you come home barefoot with a ripped dress? Why did you look at me like I was a stranger when I turned the light on? She opened her mouth, closed it, then walked away. She actually just walked away. Not upstairs, not out the door, just into the living room. Sat down, grabbed the remote, like she'd decided the conversation was optional. Like I was optional. And I stood there in that kitchen, holding a mug I didn't ask for, watching my wife pick up where she left off, without me. I wish I could say I confronted her properly, that I demanded the truth, that I flipped the table or left the house or did something. But the truth is, I stood there for another minute, then I sat down across from her. I watched the news. I drank the coffee, because I was still hoping that if I just stayed quiet long enough, she'd remember who I was. But that night, I found something in her purse. And whatever hope I had left shattered on the floor with the truth I wasn't ready for. Her purse was sitting on the arm of the couch, half unzipped, like it was waiting to confess. I didn't plan on going through it. I swear I didn't. I stood there in the living room after she went upstairs to shower, just staring at the stupid thing, convincing myself to be better than that. But the zipper was open. The edge of something glossy stuck out, not a receipt or makeup, but something deliberate, like a photograph. I moved toward it like it might bite me. It wasn't a photo. It was a hotel key card. It had one of those tacky beach sunset designs, the kind meant to make you forget the place only cost $59 a night. Tucked beneath it was a folded receipt printed, crisp, still warm like it had only just been placed there. I unfolded it and read, Sunview in room 214, paid in cash. No names, no timestamp. But the date, last night, was enough to hammer through my skull like a nail. I sat down hard on the couch, fingers trembling. I read the receipt over and over like it might rewrite itself if I blinked long enough. My mind started spiraling into ugly territory. Images I didn't want. Scenarios I hadn't asked for. Her laugh echoing in that low-budget room. Her red lipstick on someone else's neck. Her fingers on another man's chest. And all of it happening while I was home scrubbing tile and worrying if she'd gotten lost or hurt. I didn't even hear her come back downstairs. What are you doing with my purse? Her voice wasn't angry. It was flat, heavy, like she already knew and didn't care. I didn't speak at first, just held up the receipt and a key card, wordlessly, like I was handing her a verdict. Her eyes flicked to the paper, then back to me. She didn't flinch, didn't stammer. She just tilted her head like I was being unreasonable. So you went through my things, she said. That's what she led with. Not I'm sorry. Not let me explain. Just that icy accusation. Like I was the one breaking boundaries while she was out playing pretend with someone who didn't know she had a husband. I found it sticking out, I whispered. You didn't even try to hide it. That wasn't for you, she muttered, crossing her arms, robe tied tight like she needed armor. No, I said. It never is. There was a long silence between us, the kind that doesn't just stretch, it crushes. Fills every corner of a room like smoke. I stood up, chest tight, breath shallow. Was it just one night? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. She didn't answer. She looked toward the window. I need to know, I said again, louder this time. Was it just last night? Her lips pressed into a thin line, and when she finally spoke, her answer was worse than I imagined. It didn't mean anything. Not yes. Not no. Just that. It didn't mean anything. I nearly laughed. Then why did you pay in cash? She looked at me like I just insulted her intelligence. Because I didn't want this, she motioned between us, to become a thing. Oh, I said, my throat dry. So it's damage control. I didn't come home planning to fight, she said. I didn't know I'd married someone who could do this, I replied. She stepped back like I'd slapped her. But she didn't apologize. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just stood there, hugging her arms, refusing to cry. Like crying would admit something she still wanted to deny. "You were never supposed to find out," she whispered. "And yet," I said, holding up the hotel card again, "you left the evidence in your purse. Next to the gum." Silence. Again. My eyes burned. My chest ached. I could feel something twisting in my gut. Grief, rage, humiliation. All fighting to escape. But I held it in. Like always. Because that's what I do. I hold things in while she lets herself slip further away. I didn't sleep that night either. I moved into the den. Shut the door. She didn't follow. She didn't knock. But the next morning, while she was in the shower again, her phone lit up on the counter. Unknown number. Last night was unforgettable. Same time next week? Winky face. And suddenly, it wasn't just a one-time thing. I must have read that message 50 times. Maybe more. Every time I blinked, those words seemed to get louder. Last night was unforgettable. Same time next week? Winky face. The wink at the end, God, it made my skin crawl. Not just because of what it meant, but because she hadn't even saved his number. Not a name. Not a photo. Just unknown. Like even her phone refused to admit what she was doing. I didn't touch her phone. I didn't unlock it. I just stood there in the hallway, staring at the notification glowing on the screen like it was mocking me. My reflection stared back at me from the microwave's dark glass across the kitchen. Eyes hollow. Jaw clenched. I looked like someone who'd lost a war he didn't know he'd been drafted into. When I heard the shower cut off, I stepped back into the den and shut the door. Quietly. Like a coward. My knees were weak. I sat on the old corduroy armchair and gripped the arms like I was bracing for impact. I wanted to scream, or throw something, or storm in there and demand answers. But instead, I did what I always do. I collapsed into silence and waited for her to pretend nothing had happened. And she did. Again. She came down the stairs 20 minutes later, fresh-faced, hair still damp, wearing one of those casual dresses she only pulled out when she was trying to look effortlessly unbothered. She poured herself coffee and started humming. Like we were just some normal couple starting our day. Like she didn't know her secret had just leaked into the kitchen like poison gas. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Not yet. My mouth was dry. I was scared of what I'd say, or worse, how pathetic I'd sound saying it. She finally glanced over and raised a brow. "You're not at work?" "Called in again," I said. She gave me a look. Not pity. Just annoyance. "You can't keep doing that, Lowell. People will notice." "They already notice," I muttered. "They just don't say anything." She ignored that. Went back to stirring her coffee. I stared at her and decided to test the waters. "Do you know someone whose number isn't saved in your phone? Someone who thinks last night was unforgettable?" Her hand froze mid-stir. Her eyes didn't meet mine. She set the spoon down too slowly, like she was buying time. "That's a weird question," she said. "Not as weird as the answer I think you're about to give me." She finally looked at me. There was a flicker of recognition. Then a wall. "Did you go through my phone?" "I didn't have to," I said. "It lit up right in front of me." "Then don't assume things," she snapped, like I was accusing her of stealing office supplies, not wrecking our marriage. "Then help me unassume," I said. "Tell me I'm wrong. Say it. Say it was a mistake. A misunderstanding. Say anything that makes sense." She didn't say anything. I waited. She sighed and poured more coffee. "Don't do this right now," she said. "Right now." I laughed, but it came out cracked. "It's been days, Blythe. Days since you walked into this house barefoot with someone else's cologne on you and a keycard to a motel you paid cash for. Days since you started pretending this was normal. And now you're getting, next week, invitations from strangers, and I'm supposed to just, what? Mop the floor and move on." "I didn't plan this," she said, barely above a whisper. "No one ever does," I shot back. "But you didn't stop it either." She finally looked up at me, and her eyes, those eyes I used to get lost in, looked cold. Not angry. Not remorseful. Just empty. Like I was someone she had to tolerate until her next appointment. "What do you want me to say?" she asked. "How about the truth?" I said. "Not the spin. Not the gaslighting. The real, ugly truth. Tell me how long this has been going on. Tell me who he is. Tell me if you love him. Just don't stand there and act like I imagined it all." She opened her mouth, and for a moment, I thought she'd break. But then she just laughed. Quiet. Bitter. Sharp. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," she said. "Try me." She paused, leaned on the counter, took a long breath. Then she said something I'll never forget. "I don't even know his last name, Lowell. That hit me like a punch to the ribs. I staggered back a step. I don't know why that detail gutted me more than anything else. Maybe because it meant it really was meaningless. Or maybe because it meant I'd lost her to something so casual, so careless, that it didn't even warrant remembering a full name. I thought this was just a one-time mistake, I whispered. So did I, she said. And with that, she walked past me again. No apology. No tears. Just a robe. A mug. A mess. And the man she used to love, now just a ghost watching her disappear in slow motion. For hours after she left that morning, I just sat there on the same bar stool where she told me she didn't know his last name. Her coffee mug still had a ring of lipstick on the rim. That same shade she only used on special occasions. The one I used to think she wore just for me. I stared at it until it stopped feeling like a cup and started looking like a crime scene. I didn't go to work again. I didn't shower. I didn't eat. I kept going in circles inside my own head, chasing questions that had no finish line. Was this the first man? The only one? Had there been others? Was I the fool she came home to when the thrill ran dry? Had our whole marriage been one long, elaborate pause between affairs? Around 2 p.m., I did something I probably shouldn't have. I called her sister. Quinn and I had never been particularly close, but we'd always been civil. She was blunt, brutally so, but at least she didn't sugarcoat things. When she answered, I could hear wind in the background. She was probably out walking one of her rescue dogs. Lowell, she said, surprised. Everything okay? I didn't even know how to start. Have you talked to Blythe lately? There was a pause. I could almost hear her gears turning. What happened? I exhaled, then told her everything. Not the emotional mess, not my crying or insomnia or the way I'd been scrubbing floors like a man possessed. Just the basics. The late night. The shoe. The motel receipt. The message on her phone. When I finished, there was silence. Then Quinn said, "So she finally did it, huh?" The word finally shattered something in me. What do you mean finally? I asked, voice tightening. I didn't think she'd go through with it, she replied. She's been God. I probably shouldn't be saying this. Say it, I demanded, louder than I'd meant to. Please. She's been different for months, Lowell. You know that, right? Distant. Snippy. She told me she felt like she was disappearing, that you were too small for the version of her life she wanted now. Those were her words. My hands went numb. Too small. She said she wanted excitement. Chaos. Something unscripted. I thought she was just having a midlife spiral. I didn't think she'd actually go find it in a stranger's hotel room. I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened, and my heart pounded so loudly it almost drowned out Quinn's voice. She told me not to get involved, she added. But I'm sorry, Lowell. You didn't deserve this. I thanked her, or at least I think I did, and hung up. Then I just sat there, stunned, as the words replayed in my head like a song on repeat. Too small for the version of her life she wanted now. I wanted to scream, throw something, run into traffic. Instead, I walked upstairs to our closet and stared at the rows of hangers where her dresses lived. The bright one she wore to gallery events. The classy black one from our 7th anniversary. And then, I saw the red one. The one she wore the night she didn't come home. I pulled it out and stared at it. There, faint but unmistakable, was a tear at the hem. A smudge of makeup on the collar. Her perfume lingered in the fabric like a memory I couldn't burn. Then I noticed something behind the dresses. A small, silver box tucked on the top shelf. I'd never seen it before. It was heavy when I pulled it down, and when I opened it, the breath rushed from my lungs. Inside were folded notes. Scraps of receipts. A keychain I'd never seen before, bright orange with the name Brent etched into it. There was a Polaroid, too. Not graphic. Just her sitting on someone's lap, at what looked like a bar. Her head on his shoulder. Laughing. He wasn't facing the camera. His face was turned, but I could see enough to know it wasn't anyone I knew. There was also a train ticket from 3 weeks ago. A city she never told me she visited. This wasn't spontaneous. This was ongoing. I sat on the floor of the closet, gripping that silver box, and I cried. Ugly, shaking, silent tears. The kind you don't want the world to see because they make you look small. Weak. Pitiful. Exactly how she saw me. And that night, when she came home again, I didn't wait behind a wall or hide in the dark. I met her at the door, with the box in my hands, and all the pain in the world burning behind my eyes. She didn't even make it fully inside before she saw the box in my hands. Her expression tightened the moment our eyes met. No greeting, no fake smile, just that involuntary flicker of tension in her jaw. the kind that told me she already knew what I'd found. I held the silver box like it was radioactive. It felt hot in my palms, but I knew it wasn't the metal. It was everything inside it. The lies, the receipts, the secrets she never planned to tell. I didn't say anything at first. I waited, watching her drop her keys into the bowl like it was just another Tuesday night. She took her time taking off her shoes too, careful, like she thought if she kept things slow enough, the situation might dissolve on its own. "What is this?" I finally asked, my voice thinner than I wanted. I held the box out like an offering, like maybe she could explain it all away with some magical sentence. "A scrapbook of infidelity?" She didn't answer right away. She glanced at the box, then at the floor. Her hands went to her hips, and her shoulders sagged slightly. "You went through my things again," she said, and the bitterness in her tone made me clench my fists. I shook my head. "That's your takeaway? I told you not to do this, Lowell." "No, you didn't," I snapped. "You never told me anything, Blythe. You left me to connect dots while you disappeared into motel rooms with men you don't even care enough about to save in your phone." She flinched at that, but only a little, just enough to know it landed. "I was going to tell you," she said finally. Her voice softened, but not in the way that offered comfort. It sounded more like someone trying to end a long conversation with a stranger. "Eventually." "Eventually?" I echoed. "When? After you'd moved out? After he gave you a ring? After I died wondering why I was never enough?" She looked up then. Not angry, not apologetic, just tired. "Lowell, I haven't been happy in years." The words felt like a blade between my ribs. But the worst part wasn't hearing them. It was realizing I already knew. Somewhere deep down, I'd known for a long time. I just kept pretending the cold was coming from the windows instead of from her. "Then why stay?" I asked, and my voice cracked so hard it humiliated me. She sighed and looked around the room. "Because leaving would have made me the bad guy. And I couldn't. I couldn't deal with how you'd fall apart." That made me laugh. Sharp, dry, desperate. "So instead you strung me along while building a secret side life in hotel rooms." "I didn't plan for it to get that far," she said. "It started as a distraction. I just wanted to feel something again." I stared at her like I didn't even recognize her. "You could have talked to me, Blythe. We could have gone to therapy, worked on things. You didn't have to destroy us in silence." "I tried talking to you," she replied a little sharper now. "But you never heard me." You nodded and changed the subject. You smiled and asked what I wanted for dinner. I was trying to keep things normal. I shouted, louder than I'd ever spoken in this house. Because I was terrified everything was falling apart. Because I didn't know how to fix what I didn't understand. She took a step back. "Not afraid, just done." "I know," she said. "And I'm sorry for that. But the truth is, we were broken long before Brent." That name. Brent. Finally out loud. I blinked. "So he has a name after all." She nodded slowly. "Is he the only one?" Silence. Then no. That broke me. The floor didn't give out. The walls didn't crumble. Nothing outside changed. But inside, everything tilted. I felt something shift so violently in me, I had to grip the back of the chair just to stay upright. "How many?" I whispered. "I don't think you want to know." I asked, didn't I? She looked away. "More than you'd guess. Less than you'd fear." That vague cruelty. That non-answer disguised as protection. I felt like I was being erased in real time. Like the version of me that loved her was being shoved off a cliff, replaced by someone hollow and shaking. I couldn't speak anymore. Couldn't even look at her. I placed the box on the coffee table, stepped around her, and walked upstairs. Not because I was brave, but because I was seconds away from collapsing. I heard her whisper something behind me. Maybe my name, maybe nothing, but I didn't stop. I locked myself in the bathroom and slid down the door until I was curled on the floor, knees pulled to my chest like I was 10 years old again and hiding from thunder. I stayed there for hours. Because I couldn't face the woman I married. Or the stranger she'd become. I don't know when I finally fell asleep on that cold bathroom floor. Sometime between blaming myself and hating her. My limbs were numb by the time I woke up, my face pressed against the tile, my body aching like I'd been in a fight with the house itself. I sat up slowly, expecting sunlight to be coming in through the frosted glass, but the room was still dark. No footsteps in the hallway. No running water. Just silence thick enough to smother you. When I cracked open the door, the house felt abandoned. The guest room door was wide open, and the bed was perfectly made. Downstairs, her coat was gone from the hook. Her keys were gone. Her purse, too. At first, I panicked. For a wild moment, I thought maybe she'd packed up and left during the night, that I'd come down to a half-empty closet and a goodbye scribbled on the back of an envelope. But no, her clothes were still there. Her charger was still plugged into the wall by the nightstand. I even checked the laundry basket like a lunatic, searching for a sign, something real, something that would tell me what version of her I was going to see next. She was simply gone for now. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I sat on the edge of the couch with the box in my lap again, pulling out each item like I was cataloging a museum of my own humiliation. The Polaroid, the receipts, the necklace. A napkin with a phone number and a lipstick kiss on the corner. Who still did that? Who wrote on napkins in real life? At the bottom of the box was something I hadn't seen before. Folded paper. Thicker than a receipt, but not quite stationary. I pulled it out slowly and opened it. It wasn't addressed to me. It was a draft. A letter. It read, Brent, I can't stop thinking about the way you looked at me when you said I deserve more. It felt like someone finally saw me. I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending. He's kind, but he's not who I want beside me when I wake up anymore. I keep telling myself it's just the thrill of something new, but deep down I think I've already made the choice. I'm just waiting for the courage to follow through. B. I stared at that B, like it had teeth, because she never signed anything with her initial. Not birthday cards, not post-its, not even messages. She was always Blythe in ink. Always. This was something intimate. A part of her I hadn't seen in years. Something she'd given to someone else and then, for whatever reason, decided not to send. Or maybe she did send it, and this was a copy. A chill crawled up my spine. I placed the letter down carefully, like it might disintegrate if I touched it too hard. I didn't cry. Not this time. Something inside me had shifted overnight. The part of me that begged for clarity was going quiet, replaced by something colder. A numb acceptance, maybe, or the kind of detachment that happens right before a dam bursts. Around noon, she came back. No knock. No warning. She just walked in, holding a bag of groceries like this was some normal Thursday and not the quiet collapse of our entire marriage. She didn't look at me when she passed the couch. She just said, we were out of oat milk. I watched her walk into the kitchen like she hadn't lit a match to everything we'd built. She hummed while she opened the fridge. Hummed. Like a woman doing chores, not a woman deciding between two men in the corners of her life. When she finally looked over her shoulder, she noticed the box again. Still out. Still open. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You're still digging? You wrote him a letter, I said. She blinked, then looked away. That wasn't for you. Clearly, I said. Wasn't for me, wasn't about me. That's kind of the theme, isn't it? She set down a carton of eggs a little harder than necessary. I didn't send it. Doesn't matter, I said, standing. You meant it. She didn't deny it. Didn't even try. Just leaned against the counter and crossed her arms like she was waiting for this scene to play out. I thought you'd yell, she said after a beat. I laughed bitterly. I used to think I would too. But yelling implies you believe it might still make a difference. That shut her up. I moved closer, until the box was between us on the kitchen island. I didn't flinch when she glanced down at it again. If anything, I wanted her to see the mess she left behind. I wanted her to smell the perfume on that napkin, to read the motel names on the receipts. I wanted her to feel what I'd been drowning in. But instead, she said, I think I should stay at Quinn's for a few days. Something in me cracked again, but I forced a nod. Probably for the best. I'll pack a bag. She didn't ask if I'd be okay. Didn't say she was sorry. She just left the eggs on the counter and went upstairs, like she was late for a train that had been waiting all along. 15 minutes later, she was gone, and the house finally felt quiet in a way it hadn't in years. But I should have known the silence was just the setup, because the next day, I got a message from someone I'd never met. And that stranger told me something about Blythe that not even she knew I was about to find out. The message came at 9:42 a.m. No profile picture. Just a first name, Avery. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Something about the way it was worded made me feel like I was being watched. You don't know me, but I know who you are. I thought you should know Blythe's not who she pretends to be, not with you, not with anyone. You're not the first she's done this to, but you might be the last. It was strange how calm I felt reading it. A few days ago, those words would have sent me into another spiral. But not today. Today, something had changed. I wasn't scrambling for meaning anymore. I wasn't holding a broken frame together with trembling hands. I was finally ready to let go. I wrote back one sentence. Thanks. I already know. And I did. I don't know who Avery was exactly, an ex-friend, a past affairs partner, maybe even someone she burned along the way. But whoever they were, they confirmed what I'd already accepted, that this wasn't about me being not enough. It was about her being too afraid to face herself. She left her toothbrush, her yoga mat, her copy of Little Fires Everywhere with the dog-eared pages she never finished. The house was quiet in a way I'd never experienced, not just absent of noise, but free from tension. The constant tightrope I'd been walking without knowing it had snapped, and now I was standing on solid ground for the first time in years. I cleaned the kitchen, not in that manic, desperate way I had before. This time, it was therapeutic. I tossed out the expired oat milk, finally. I folded the laundry that had been sitting in the basket for a week. I vacuumed without imagining her footsteps behind me. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I walked into the spare room and opened the window. The air outside was cool, fresh, and new. I sat down at the desk, her old writing desk, and I opened my laptop. And I started typing. Not messages. Not confessions. A job application. There had been an opening at a small science museum a few towns over. Outreach and education. Nothing glamorous, but it felt right. Like something mine. I submitted it before I could second-guess myself. That night, I ate dinner by myself for the first time in months and didn't feel lonely. I felt peaceful. The meal was simple, grilled cheese and tomato soup, but I made it the way I like it, not how she always insisted. And then, something unexpected happened. Quinn called. At first, I thought it would be awkward. Maybe she was checking in out of obligation. But to my surprise, she sounded light. I just wanted to say, she began, you're handling this with more grace than I ever expected. I chuckled. I don't feel graceful. No one does at first, she replied. But you're getting there. We talked for an hour. About everything. About nothing. About how people surprise you, sometimes in the worst ways, and sometimes in the best. By the end of the call, I realized something I never thought I'd say out loud. I think I'm going to be okay. And I meant it. The following week, Blythe officially moved out. No big scene. No emotional last words. She came during the day while I was gone at her request, and when I got home, half the closet was empty, and a note was left on the counter. Short. Simple. Lowell, I hope you find what I couldn't give you. I really do. I folded the note once and put it in the drawer with the silver box. I didn't rip it up. I didn't burn it. I didn't cling to it either. It was just part of the past. A chapter closed. 3 days later, I got a call back for the museum position. I start next month. Today, I stood in the doorway of the now fully empty guest room, the same one she used when she began disappearing from me, night by night. I opened both windows wide and let the breeze roll in. Then I walked outside with a trash bag full of receipts, notes, and things that used to make my chest ache. I dropped it in the bin, and then I went for a walk. Not because I needed to escape, but because I wanted to feel what freedom really tasted like. It was quiet, clean, bright, and it belonged to me now.